So in this video we'll review Wreckfest. Now this is the start menu and it goes into your main menu for the game. There are several game modes. You've got career, which is the single player championships and events. You have custom events where you can create your own custom events, whatever cars, vehicles, tracks that you want to use. There's multiplayer for the online version, and tournament, which is a set of challenges that can let you unlock unique cars, and of course DLC, so they can sell you more stuff. So let's take career. So there's different championships. Now to get each championship you have to get a set amount of points to unlock each championship. On each individual race there's an amount of points, so for example Fairfield has 100 points you have to get, and then a bonus objective. If you get all the bonus objectives, you get a nice yellow tick here, and it keeps your total points as well. They do get harder, but you do get a range. Single player is very good and will keep you entertained for a long time. It certainly has for me. In terms of cars, you do get a huge range. They're obviously loosely based on real cars, but essentially you get hatchbacks, American performance cars, Japanese sort of small, well, basically based on Nissan, isn't it? And there's a whole range of different cars you can use in different events. The Mudrigger obviously for more powerful events, and each one has its uses. Now these are the standard vehicles. There are also vehicles, for example harvester, lawnmower, school bus, motorhome, battle bus, sofas. I think there's some lorries up here as well. Editing the car is pretty simple and making it appropriate for the events you want to do, so you can upgrade the strength and downgrade it quite easily. You don't need to be an expert in understanding car mechanics to get your car in the best type of performance. And similarly for the tuning, it's very simple. Gives a definition on the right. I don't use it that often. If I do, it's for the suspension and I make sure that's right for each race. So in terms of gameplay, as you can see, graphics really good. The AI is reasonably good for the computer, and they can give you quite competitive races. You can always change the difficulty to make it more or less difficult for yourself. Now this is one of the more extreme tracks. A lot of them are a bit more mundane or like typical racing tracks. But you get the gist. It's a very good and enjoyable game to play. And obviously the best bit is lighting up someone and just taking them out for no reason. The mechanics and damage to the car are pretty good as well, so you can see. Look at the state of my car already basically. There are essentially two game modes, racing, which obviously this one is, and then deathmatch or arena, which we'll talk about in a second. But the racing's pretty good. There isn't any advantage to getting points, so it doesn't matter if I win by touching no one or win by smashing my way through the race, I will still get the same amount of points. So you may have seen that points come up. I'll give you an example. So that 100 for spinning out and that 100 for rear ender just go towards my experience and raise my level, where it's zero real advantage to doing it. So here's an example of a death match. So the winner of this will be, there. The winner of this will be the person that gets the highest number of wrecks, and if people are tied on wrecks, the highest score. As we talked about, you get to score by hitting people and not being the one who gets hit. It's also worth bearing in mind for damage. The damage mechanism seems to be, if you do the hitting, you get very little damage, and they do. If you get hit, you get the damage. On this one, I put the damage on realistic in inverted commas, which means that most hits will basically finish you off. So I've talked a lot about the game. It's a very, very good game. I've spent far too much time playing it. But there are things that I think make it a good, maybe a great game, but not an absolute genius game. There's a lack of rivalry in the game, so the names don't really mean anything, dead friend, nutty freak. There isn't a particular rival, there's not a particular colour scheme or even a team, so in one event nutty freak might be the one you've got to try and watch out for. It might be Psycho Missile, but there's nothing really that differentiates them apart from the name of the screen. There isn't really much to championships either, so it's great. It's obviously a championship, but ultimately you need to get all the points if you want to get the full set of points. And it doesn't feel like, I can take a 6th place here, I'll win the next event. So that takes away a little bit, I think, in the play. There's no stats anywhere, so you don't get to keep any stats. The actual in-game's a bit as well. So, I've been playing it there, I went quiet for a little bit there just to see the show. I know that the way that racing games have gone modern is not to have commentary and stuff like that on that, and I understand that for F1 aficionados that want everything realistic, but it's not meant to be a realistic game, so even if it'd been a stadium commentator or something, could have added a bit of extra atmosphere to the game. But overall, I think it's a pretty good attempt at a racing game. So the tournament is something you want to keep an eye on. Depends on how you got yourself set up. I had myself set up with connection to the internet without being logged in, which meant that this still sort of worked properly. The advantage is each event's got a set amount of fame points, and you've got access to a store, and it means you'll get access to different cars from the standard ones, and there are some cars on here that you really want. You might choose to have, you might not, but there are some very good cars on here. So for example, the Speedbird GT is one, the Hammer RS is one that's almost the best car that's used online, so this is your best way of getting really competitive vehicles if you don't want to pay for them with real money. So the multiplayer's alright. I played it a bit. You've got the different events. What I've found, I'm pretty good, but on the racing one I won't win many, and I can be careful without sounding too hypocritical. It's good, but there are quite a lot of wreckers on there, which I know you'll get a lot of people saying it's Wreckfest, and that's the way it should be. And I'm not going to comment on which way I fall on that. But it does get frustrating when you've raced 5.5 laps and someone's going backwards and takes you out of the event. So I can see both sides of the coin, but generally the racing's very hard. I found the derby stuff easier. I win quite a lot of the derbies and the death matches. Special vehicles one, there normally isn't enough players. Mixed, you just get random stuff, and then quick match that will just drop you into the server, which is the latest available. So as you can see, the multiplayer's okay. In that example, I think it took me 10 minutes to get into the race. And one of the annoying features is the race starts in about 2 seconds, so if you've gone to get a snack, or in that case looked at my phone at the wrong time, You missed the start, which is a bit balmy. But yeah, overall, online's okay. I'm not going to sweat on it. I'm not suggesting you guys can or you can't. It's up to you, but I wouldn't go out my way to play it. So, to summarise the game, I've intentionally tried not to mention Destruction Derby throughout all of this. But for those of the generation that remember Destruction Derby, it's not as good as Destruction Derby. However, there have been lots of attempts to be as good as Destruction Derby, and this is the closest I've seen. There are rumours of a Wreckfest 2. It wouldn't be that hard to make this game a 9 or 10 out of 10. But at the moment, for me, it's not a great game, it's a good game. So, for that reason, 7 out of 10.